In the spring of 1974, one farmer stopped plowing his fields. And everyone called him lazy. His name was Ethan Cole. He was 49 years old, farming 260 acres in Jefferson County, Iowa. And for nearly 30 years, he had done exactly what every farmer around him did. Every March, he plowed. Deep. Clean. Perfect rows of black soil turned over like it had been for generations. Because in that part of the country, plowing wasn't a choice. It was farming. You didn't question it. You didn't skip it. You didn't think about it. Until one winter, Ethan read something he couldn't ignore. It was a thin, worn-out book. 50 cents at a local sale. Dog-eared. Water-stained. The kind of book most people would flip through and forget. Ethan didn't forget it. He read it once, then again, and one sentence stayed with him. No one has ever given a scientific reason for plowing. He sat at his kitchen table, staring at that sentence, not arguing with it, not agreeing with it, just thinking. Because if that sentence was true, then everything he had done for 30 years was wrong. The plow, the fuel, the time, the work. Every spring, turning the soil upside down, and never asking why. Most people would have closed the book, put it back on the shelf, forgotten about it by morning. Ethan didn't. He went looking for answers. 3 Saturdays in a row, he drove into town, sat in a quiet county library, and read everything he could find. Soil studies, extension bulletins, field trials from other states. Page after page, they all said the same thing. Plowing didn't help the soil. It broke it, destroyed structure, killed organisms, dried it out. And every year, farmers did it again. By the end of February, Ethan had filled an entire notebook. 40 pages of notes, numbers, observations, questions, all pointing in one direction. Stop plowing. He walked out to the barn that afternoon. In front of his plow. A 5-bottom steel moldboard, heavy, reliable, expensive. The most important tool on his farm. The tool his father had used, the tool his grandfather had trusted. He rested his hand on the metal. Cold, worn smooth in places. And for the first time, he didn't see a tool. He saw a question. That night, he sat across from his wife. Same kitchen table, same quiet room. "I'm not going to plow this year," he said. She didn't react right away, just listened. The way you listen when you're waiting for something to make sense. "No plowing?" she asked. "No plowing. What are you going to do instead?" "I'm going to plant into the ground as it is. No turning it, no breaking it. Just planting." She looked at him, carefully. "What does everyone else say?" she asked. Ethan let out a small breath. "They say you have to plow. They say that's how farming works." She nodded, then asked the one question no one else had asked. "What does the soil say?" Ethan didn't answer right away. He looked out the window. Fields still frozen, waiting. Then he turned back. "It says stop," he said. That Saturday, he mentioned it at the co-op. Casually, like it was nothing. "I'm not plowing this year." The room went quiet. 5 men, One counter. All looking at him. "You're not plowing?" someone said. "No." "What are you going to do?" "Plant. Right into the ground." A pause. Then someone laughed. Not loud, but enough. The dealer behind the counter, Martin Hale, set his coffee down slowly. "Ethan," he said, "I've been selling plows in this county for 20 years. Every farmer here plows. Every farmer in Iowa plows. If you don't plow," he paused, "you're not farming." Another voice from the end of the counter. He read a book. A few smiles. A few nods. A book told him not to plow. More laughter. Martin leaned forward. Looked Ethan straight in the eye. "That's not farming," he said. "That's being lazy." The word landed. Hard. In that room. In that place. There wasn't a worse thing you could call a farmer. Ethan didn't respond. Didn't argue. Didn't defend himself. He just finished his coffee. Set the cup down. And walked out. Because the decision had already been made. And in a few weeks, when every other field in the county turned black and clean, his wouldn't. And that's when the real story would begin. By mid-April, the county had turned black. Field after field, smooth, clean, perfect. Freshly plowed soil stretched for miles. Dark rows laid out like fabric across the land. It was the look every farmer recognized. The look of work done right. And then there was Ethan's field. Brown. Uneven. Covered in last year's corn stalks. Nothing turned. Nothing cleaned. Nothing prepared. At least not the way everyone understood it. From the road, it didn't look like a field ready to plant. It looked like a field that had been left behind. People noticed. They always do. Trucks slowed as they passed. Heads turned. Eyes narrowed. Judgments came fast. Without questions. "Looks like he quit. He didn't even touch it. That's not farming." By the end of the week, the story had already spread. At the co-op, the tone was different now. Less surprise. More certainty. He's really doing it. Planting straight into that mess. Won't last a season. Martin Hale was behind the counter again. Same place. Same coffee. "He'll learn," he said. "They always do." No one argued. Because in their minds, this wasn't a risk. It was a mistake. Ethan planted anyway. Late April. Same timing as everyone else. But not the same method. He had modified his planter. Steel blades welded in front. Just enough to cut through the residue. Not turning the soil. Not disturbing it. Just opening a narrow line and placing the seed. Row by row, he moved across the field. Corn stalks still standing around him. Leaves crunching under the tires. Soil hidden beneath a layer of last year's crop. From a distance, it looked wrong. Completely wrong. No clean lines. No black surface. No sign of proper preparation. Just mess. And in farming, appearance matters. More than most people think. Because appearance is how farmers judge each other. Clean field means discipline, effort, control. Ethan's field said none of those things. It said something else. It said he didn't care. Or worse, that he didn't know what he was doing. One afternoon, a truck pulled up along his fence line, engine idling, window down. "You really going through with this?" the driver called out. Ethan kept working. Didn't stop the tractor. "Planting into all that?" the man added. "Yeah," Ethan said. A pause. Then a laugh. "Looks like you gave up before you even started." Ethan didn't answer. He didn't need to. Because explaining it wouldn't change anything. Not yet. At the co-op that weekend, the story had a new label. They didn't call it a mistake anymore. They called it what they believed it was: lazy farming. The words stuck. Easy to say, easy to repeat. Drive past Ethan's place. You'll see it. Didn't even bother plowing. The more they said it, the more it became true to them. Because belief doesn't need proof. Just repetition. Ethan heard all of it. Every word. Every laugh. But he didn't respond. Didn't defend. Didn't explain. He just kept planting. Row after row. Because the real test wasn't happening at the co-op. It was happening under the surface. In a place no one else was looking. And for now, everything above the ground made him look wrong. The first signs didn't come from the plants. They came from the numbers. By late summer, everyone knew how the season was going. You didn't need a report. You could see it in the fields. Ethan's corn grew. Not perfect, not uniform, but it grew. And for a while, that was enough. Until harvest. The combine moved through his field in early October. Slow, steady. The yield monitor told the story before the grain even hit the wagon. 75 bushels per acre. The county average, 86. He was down 11 bushels, almost 13%. That wasn't theory. That wasn't a prediction. That was real. Grain not in the bin. Money not in the account. At the co-op, they noticed immediately. They always did. 75, someone said. County did 86. That's what happens. A few nods. A few quiet smiles. No one needed to say the rest. They already believed it. The next year was worse. Ethan planted again. Same method. Same field. No plowing. No turning. No going back. But the soil was still adjusting. Still rebuilding something that had been broken for decades. Harvest came again. Another number. 72 bushels. County held at 86. Now he was down 14. More than 15%. That's when it stopped being a theory and started becoming a problem. 2 years. 2 losses. 2 seasons proving everyone else right. At the co-op, the tone changed again. Less curiosity. More certainty. He's done. He'll plow next spring. Has to. Because in their minds, there was only one direction this could go. Back. Back to what worked. Back to what made sense. Back to the plow. At home, the conversation was different. Quieter. More careful. How long does it take? His wife asked. Ethan didn't answer right away. He already knew the number. 3 to 5 years, he said, before it turns. She nodded slowly. Then asked the question that mattered. Can we make it to year 3? That wasn't about belief, it was about survival. Ethan had done the math, more than once. The savings helped. No plowing meant less fuel, less wear, less time. About $1,200 a year saved, but it didn't cover everything.
Not the full loss, not the missing yield. They could survive, barely, one more year. If it doesn't change, she said. Ethan finished the sentence in his head. Then nodded, one more year. That was the line, year 3, not because he stopped believing, but because belief doesn't pay bills. Winter came, snow covered the fields, silence settled over everything. And under that silence, something was happening, not visible, not measurable, not yet. But change doesn't start where you can see it, it starts where no one is looking. And by the time it reaches the surface, most people have already decided that it isn't working.
The third year didn't start with a breakthrough. It started the same way as the others. Cold ground, late frost, fields waiting. Across Jefferson County, tractors moved again, steel cutting into soil, turning it black, turning it clean. The sound of plows carried across the land, familiar, certain. And once again, Ethan's field stayed untouched. From the road, it still looked wrong, still covered, still uneven. Nothing about it said, improvement. Nothing about it said, progress, but this time, Ethan wasn't watching the surface. He was watching the details. After the first spring rain, he walked the field, alone, boots sinking slightly into the ground. Not deep, not soft, but different. He stopped near the center of the field. Bent down, pressed his hand into the soil. Last year, it had broken apart. Loose, unstable. This year, it held. Not perfectly, not fully, but enough to notice. He picked up a handful, squeezed it. It stayed together. Then slowly broke, into smaller pieces, not dust, not clumps. Structure. That was the first sign. Small, easy to miss, but real. 2 weeks later, after another rain, he saw the second. Water stayed longer. Not pooling, not running, just staying, soaking in, holding, across the fence, it didn't. Same rain. Same timing. Different result. Ethan didn't point it out, didn't mention it, didn't explain, because it wasn't visible yet, not to anyone else. Planting came again. Same method, same equipment, same risk, but something had changed. Not above the ground, below it. The seeds went in cleaner, the rows held better. The soil didn't collapse around the planter, small things, technical things, easy to ignore. Until they added up. By early summer, the difference started to show. Not dramatic, yes, but there. The corn came up more even, gaps filled in, plants stood straighter, color deepened. Just slightly, enough that Ethan noticed. No one else did. At the co-op, the story hadn't changed. He's still doing it. Third year now. Still not working. Because from the outside, nothing had changed. No big yield. No visible proof. No reason to believe. But the soil wasn't the same. It was rebuilding. Slowly. Quietly. And that kind of change doesn't announce itself. It doesn't show up early, it doesn't prove anything, until it has to. By late summer, Ethan walked the field again, same path, same place. He bent down. Picked up the soil. Held it in his hand, then let it fall. And this time, it didn't break the same way. It held longer. Stayed together. Before slowly giving way. He didn't smile. Didn't celebrate. Didn't say anything. Because one season doesn't prove anything, but it was enough to reach the line. Year 3, the year he had given himself. And for the first time, there was a reason to keep going.
The summer of 1976 didn't start as a disaster. It became one. The rain stopped in late May. At first, no one worried. It happens. A dry week, then another. By June, the ground began to change. Not all at once. Just enough. Cracks forming in the surface. Dust rising behind every truck. By July, the county knew. This wasn't a dry spell. This was a drought. Across Jefferson County, fields started to fade. Green turned pale, then uneven, then thin. Plants stood shorter. Leaves curled. Roots searched deeper and found nothing. Because the soil couldn't hold what wasn't there. Water came and disappeared. Fast. No structure. No organic matter. Nothing to keep it. At the co-op, the conversations were different now. Quieter. Slower. How bad is it? Worse than 72. Maybe worse than anything we've seen. They compared fields. Compared losses. Compared how much worse it might get. No one laughed anymore. There was nothing to laugh about. And then, someone said it. What about Ethan's place? A pause. Then a few looks. No one answered right away. Because no one wanted to be the first to say it. So they drove out. One truck. Then another. Then 3 more. They pulled up along his fence line. Same place they had stopped before. But this time, they didn't laugh. They just looked. Ethan's field was still green. Not perfect. Not untouched. But holding. Plants stood taller. Leaves still open. Color still there. Because when the rain stopped, the water didn't leave. It stayed. Held in the soil. Built back over 3 years. Structure. Organic matter. Life beneath the surface. Things no one could see. Until they mattered. One man stepped out of his truck. Walked to the fence. Stood there a long time. Then said it quietly. He was right. No one argued. No one disagreed. Because now, it wasn't a theory. It wasn't a book. It wasn't a guess. It was the field in front of them. Same county. Same weather. Same year. Different result. That fall, the numbers came in. Across the county, yields dropped. Some by 30%. Some more. On Ethan's farm, they held. Not record-breaking. Not perfect. But stable. Enough to survive. Enough to prove something. By winter, the questions started. Quiet at first, then louder. How did you do it? What changed? What did you see that we didn't? Ethan gave the same answer every time. Nothing complicated. Nothing technical. I stopped doing what everyone else was doing. That was it. No speech. No explanation. Because the land had already explained it. Over the next few years, things began to change. One farmer tried it. Then another. Then a few more. Not because they believed the book. Not because they trusted the theory. Because they had seen the result. The same fields that once looked wrong became the ones people studied. And the man they called lazy became the one they asked for advice. Ethan never made a speech about it. Never said, "I told you so." Never went back to the co-op to explain anything.
because he didn't need to. The soil had done it for him. For 30 years, he had followed a system he never questioned. Then one winter, he asked why. And 3 years later, when it mattered most, the answer showed up. Sometimes the hardest thing to change is the thing everyone agrees on. Because agreement feels like proof, even when it isn't. And sometimes, the difference between being wrong and being early is just time. In 1974, they called him lazy. By 1976, they were standing at his fence, trying to understand why he wasn't.